The Legend of Zelda series rarely carries elements, characters, landscapes, lore, and gameplay aspects over from one game to another. We've heard on numerous occasions that Nintendo focuses more on originality and overall prefers to create new experiences over older ones while developing each new title. However, we can clearly see a difference with regard with Tears of the Kingdom. The same open world we heavily explored from Breath of the Wild has returned, along with similar gameplay. But why are they doing this? It is rare for a game to reuse something so gigantic and obvious from another, especially Zelda. Unless, ladies and gentlemen, unless there is a split in game development. A split that caused a game to cut off ideas and let them marinate over time so that they may grow into another game entirely. Ideas like seeds that might have actually began rooting in the original soil, but then were moved to new soil so that they may flourish even more. I believe there is one singularity across Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Two parts of a greater whole. These parts aren't only due to a two-part tale or an expansion of something so grand to be used again, but in all honesty, it's mostly due to an easier profit for Nintendo, just being realistic here. Before we knew the game was titled Tears of the Kingdom, I actually made a video on the singularity that both games encompass, which led me to a title guess a week before the title was revealed at the September Direct of this year. Even though I was wrong on my title guess, I still believe the foundation of it is worth continuing the discussion after this video, so I'll link that video here. Now then, let's jump back to a similar time of Zelda anticipation, the year 2014. Back when the Game Awards was pretty much worth watching, the 2014 event showed us our first on-screen gameplay look at the upcoming Zelda project, announced at E3 of that year, known at the time as Zelda Wii U, and would later be known as the popular Breath of the Wild. Aonuma and Miyamoto showed some decent gameplay of the game, mainly focusing on the overworld. During that gameplay session, Miyamoto made an interesting comment that I would eventually recall when thinking about the possibility of dungeons returning in the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. I'll play a clip of it now.
Why don't we go to a place where we can aim at enemies with these arrows?
There's insect and animal life as well. I saw apples growing here the last time.
Yeah, you can pick and eat them.
This looks a bit suspicious. We must be near a dungeon.
In places like this,
I knew
you
it.
tend to run into these guys.
The reason why a comment of a game seen in development that has now been released for over 5 years is even relevant at all to a new upcoming game is because of what I've mentioned, the singularity of both games. Yeah, Aonuma's response to the comment isn't clear, but in all honesty, when is it ever? Let's also not forget about the Masterworks concept art and the multiple times we heard of Breath of the Wild sequel being born from too many ideas of DLC for the original game. Come on. With that being said, let's take a look at this location. Right off the bat, the final game version of this location isn't super obvious. However, thanks to the internet and my own research in-game, I was able to find out where this place is in Breath of the Wild, which will probably still be accurate to where it will be in Tears of the Kingdom. The location of these suspicious statues shown in this screenshot represents the entrance of Faron Woods, coming from the southwest in Breath of the Wild. I began messing around with this location in-game, trying to find any suspicious spots of possible dungeon entrances. Take a look. Remember, Faron Woods is heavily connected to the Zonai, and this scene from the recent trailer actually takes place nearby, like right here. While there isn't any obvious place like a hole with a beautiful design for a dungeon door, Firstly, I did find this rock to be peculiar. I can see it ripping out of the ground and going skyward. But there's more than that. I began to mess around a bit more, and I decided to go a bit further towards the north in the direction of Faron Hills. And man, there are some very interesting spots that could hold a hidden dungeon. I mean, it's surprising to see some of these spots don't have a hidden area or grotto already. So, I came down to 3 specific locations that could hold a dungeon, north of the entrance to Faron Woods. And even if these locations don't hold a dungeon, I firmly believe that they will definitely have some sort of new cave or grotto in Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, location number 1. Traveling north past the Pumang Nate Shrine, I probably butchered it, but whatever. There's this secluded pond here. Looks like if it were to be drained with the tier reversal ability, we can see something hidden. When I stumbled across it, I saw berries flying above the pond. And there's no great berries around, so I thought there was some sort of significance to this location. Like it's just a perfect like little lake pond little circle on the map. So perhaps this can be expanded upon in the sequel? I don't know. But we'll have to see. Alright, location number 2. So going even further north past Faron Hills towards Dale Lake, there is this crevice to the left of Poplar Foothills. There was a Zonai block puzzle revealing a Korok seed, and it just looks like this crevice is an entrance to something. Being close to the Poplar Foothills, the mountain range that is connected to the Spring of Courage, there's gotta be something here. Alright guys, now, on to the last location, and if you stayed this long, thank you so much, because I personally think that this is the greatest candidate for a new dungeon. It just makes so much sense, and I really think there's going to be one here. Alright, let's get into it. So, we know that the Drakuzu Lake forms this shape of a serpent on the map, you know, with the hand, it's like a claw, it's like a mouth with like teeth, you know, you've seen the lake. Well, if you go a little to the left on the map, you can see a smaller pond that has a smaller serpent mouth-like shape. And when you go here, it's a perfect square in the game. It's a perfect square around a pond with a dragon head in the middle. I just feel like this dragon head will open up and reveal a dungeon. It just makes so much sense. And there's not really anything important in this area within Breath of the Wild. It doesn't really have a name. It's just a square structure, you know, made out of special Zonai rock with just a pond in the middle and this dragon head here. I think there's like a Korok puzzle or something, but it feels like there's something more significant to this. The atmosphere of this place just looks like a dungeon entrance from the older 2D Zeldas. It's a small location that's clearly not a temple from the outside, but has a small opening that reveals a full-on dungeon. Kind of like a Link to the Past or Minish Cap or something like that. It would be like a small opening to a great underground location. And I feel like Tears of the Kingdom will have dungeon locations like that, since these locations in Breath of the Wild can't be too obvious that they hold a dungeon, right? That would spoil the surprise for the sequel. Thus, at the end, I firmly believe that there will be a dungeon around here, because if there are 7 new dungeons from the 7 new tiers and each one represents a tribe or a province, then there should be one in the Faron region, and I think this is it. Anyway, it's always very interesting to look for something that will be in an upcoming game in a previous game. It's really something not done too often, and not at all in Zelda until now. Perhaps there are more locations to observe and theorize on. I hope I encouraged you guys, and like I said, if you got any other locations, let me know in the comments or be sure to share it with others. I'll be sure to point out any other peculiar locations, ideas for dungeons and other stuff in Tears of the Kingdom, and I'll expand upon that in future videos. And if I can't find any others to make a whole video on, don't worry, because I got more Zelda theories lined up. If you want to stay updated, subscribe to the channel. I got more projects coming up related to Zelda and gaming stuff in general, so you don't want to miss those. Give this video a like. Each like really helps out the channel, so I'd appreciate it. You know, so give it a like if you've liked it. Seriously. Guys, I'm going to wrap up with this. I hope you have a great, blessed day. Peace out, and take care. Skylink Shock, out.